Hello and welcome back to Harry Shoots People. Today we've got our Contax 139Q and we're just going to head down to Manchester to go and shoot some film with my friend Elliot. Heading for the train in a bit. Today I've brought mainly my Ultramax 400 speed. Not exactly sure what we're going to go and shoot, so I thought this would be nice just for whatever, and just in case the sun sets and we're still down to shoot some Still 800T. Currently looking for batteries for this, not sure if I have any, let's hope I do. But yeah, gonna head for the train now, link up with Elliot, go and get his camera, see what we can shoot. Let's go.
The next station will be Bamford.
So, like I said, we were heading out to Manchester to meet up with my friend Elliot and take some sort of architectural style photography, which is something I haven't really delved into within my own work, but I was pretty looking forward to it.
Yeah, I bought that in. Hi.
Nice. What is that screen on the back of your camera?
Oh, I know.
Mine doesn't have
sacrilegious.
that. Mine doesn't have a screen. Ultramax 400, 2008. Also, if you get confused at any point during this video, an easy way to remember it is Elliot's photos are in black and white and they're good. My photos are in colour and they're bad. Also, I won't lie, I did kind of forget that I was shooting colour on this particular day. After seeing Elliot's pictures coming out in black and white, I almost started to envision my compositions in black and white, which wasn't very helpful to say the least. Also, doubly unfortunate, now that the sun sets at like 3 PM, this was kind of the best light we were going to get all day, which was slightly disappointing. I'm inside now because it was freezing and also really noisy. But we'll continue. Once we found this cool building, it was really nice to try and flex my architectural photography muscles and take this. Whilst Elliot completely mogged me and took this. The next sort of location that we found was just a little bit further down the road. There was this hole in the ground that was sort of enclosed by these barriers, which had fallen in on themselves. I decided to get really close up and sort of try to fill my frame with barriers and make it look almost a little bit confusing. And I kind of like the end result. Elliot stayed back a little bit and took these slightly wider shots, and this one I really like with the sort of the subject grounding it and giving context to the image all the way in the background. Just came out really nice, and I think that's what maybe my image slightly lacked. These pictures are really fun. This location overall was pretty cool, but kind of a little bit hard to compose on with the 50mm lens. But for the most part, a really cool location. I like both of our images of the sort of spire of the bridge connecting with the wires. It just came out quite nice. For whatever reason as well, on this day, my contacts just decided to sort of freeze after taking some pictures. I couldn't really figure out what was going on. In the end, I decided that every time I took a picture and it just froze up, I just unscrewed the battery pack at the bottom and then the shutter clicked back up. But it was really inconvenient to do that every time it froze. And I've just replaced the battery, so I'm not really sure what's wrong. It is an old camera. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to buy a new one at the minute, which is slightly disappointing. So I'm just hoping for the next couple of rolls that it doesn't do that. Fingers crossed. But anyway, because of that, I missed this shot of the building and a couple more along the way. But enough bad news. It was time for lunchtime. Harry shoots people first to barn me. Courtesy of Ehabs. Barn me, boys. So guys, barn me review from Cafe Viet. Huge. It's delicious. I'd give it 5 big booms. Shout out to Cafe Viet. Barbecue pulled pork, no coriander. Beautiful view. We're here with Elliot. He's enjoying his. Boom! I do quite like this image. I wish I'd shot on a slightly higher shutter speed though, as I do kind of like the slightly blurred subject walking past, but there's a little bit too much blur. I would have liked to freeze that motion a little bit more. And also in other areas of the image, it's just slightly blurred where it could have been just a touch sharper. This was sort of around the time that we were losing like basically all of the light, and we were really struggling to find interesting compositions. But we came across this sort of row of lights along the canal, and I shot this. But Elliot got a bit more abstract and shot the reflection of the lights in the water, which I really love. After that, we walked over and ended up on sort of the corner of the gay village, and I saw these 2 signs on each of the doors leading into a building that I thought would make for a really interesting photo. And then I tried to take a photo, and the contact froze up on me, which was really great timing. And then about 10 minutes later, once it unstuck, I decided to take 4 photos of that location, just to make up for lost time. Out of the 4 images, I do really like this one. I would have liked to have had a bit more varied compositions, but I kind of just like sort of the duality of the 2 signs at 2 different distances within the frame. Unfortunately though, moments after I took those, a custom Arc'teryx G-Wagon pulled around the corner and Elliot took this, which is infinitely cooler than maybe any picture I've ever taken ever. Unfortunately here as well, there just definitely wasn't enough light for the kind of photos I was looking to take, so I've learnt my lesson with maybe bringing something higher than 400 speed. As well, I feel like I should have done a bit more metering, particularly for the light, as I was kind of envisioning having just the light as sort of the sole subject of the scene and then a darker background. Whereas I've ended up with an even exposure across the board, but the image is sort of flat because of that. So the camera is unfortunately up to its old tricks of just depressing the shutter halfway and then just not coming back on, which is inconvenient. It's definitely more than a battery issue because I changed the batteries. But yeah, fingers crossed it doesn't happen majorly for the rest of the day. I figured out kind of how to fix it. The lighting here is awful, sorry. I figured out how to kind of fix it. You just kind of take out the batteries a little bit, but it's really an inconvenient issue. But we're on about 23 shots. Hopefully, because we're finding like interesting bits of architecture and stuff and interesting compositions. So hopefully we can finish that roll today. But yeah, sun's definitely vanished completely from the sky, but it's still good. Elliot's just there shooting. Let's go. Speaking of that kind of light against the background, I do really enjoy this image of the Chinese restaurant. I think it's sort of indicative of that kind of lighting setup that I was hoping to get for the rest of the images, but I just didn't. But I still really like this one of the Chinese restaurant. Unfortunately, the one I took moments after, there was a child walking into frame on the left side, and I was like, oh my god, this would be so cool, and took the picture exactly as the car came in and just completely blocked any view. But what can you do? I really like this image of the strange looking sort of pharmacy. I don't mind this first image of the two people sort of walking past the doorway, but I wish that in the second image I'd metered it slightly differently, as since there's no people in it, the pharmacy itself sort of becomes the subject. So I would have loved a little bit more like dramatic lighting and maybe for the building to just stand out just a little bit more. So a little more shadows would have been nice. On our final location that we ended up passing on the day, I didn't manage to make any sort of interesting compositions here. There just wasn't anything that was really inspiring for myself. But Elliot managed to take some really interesting images. There was these sort of two smoke chimneys going alongside this set of stairs. And with the smoke coming out of them and the lighting, it just ended up looking really cool. So I'm a really big fan of these images too. We then found a little gap in a structure and decided to take a quick portrait of each other, and safe to say the cold might have got the best of my hands here. Overall, I had a really fun time attempting a style of photography that I don't normally practice, and it was really interesting getting to see someone compose and take images in places where I personally wouldn't have looked or even seen the potential composition, and it was just really inspiring. If I were to do it again, I feel like I would definitely bring black and white film. I feel like it would have had maybe a bit better latitude on the images, and the images wouldn't have seen as busy, I guess. I'd also probably have brought a 135mm lens, as that way you can just get a little bit closer to the buildings and the buildings can sort of fill up the frame. Rather than being the subject, they just become the entire picture, which would have been a little bit more interesting than seeing what essentially is pretty close to the human eye's view anyway. But yeah, whilst I'm not the biggest fan of my own work from this day, I am a huge fan of Elliot's, and I'm excited to try it again and to sort of implement all the lessons and things that I've learned from doing it for the first time and seeing how the second time could go. If you also liked Elliot's stuff, you can find him here. And if you like this video, drop it a like. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you'd like to see more of my photography, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.